Good evening. This is the Legislative Committee, and we are April 21st, and it's 5:30, and all committee members are here. Is there any changes or corrections to the minutes as provided?
No.
Is there anybody here for a public comment? Hearing none.
Okay.
Any correspondence?
No.
Katie, just to catch you up, Code Enforcement Officer Steve Yearley was unable to attend due to a family medical emergency. So agenda B and C will be tabled until next month.
Sounds good.
We do have in front of us a hard copy of the draft that he's proposing.
Okay.
We were just going through and looking at it briefly, but I don't want to be rushed on it.
Okay.
So if you would just make your corrections or suggestions ready for next month, would be great.
Sounds good.
So we'll move into topic A, which is a city code revision, chapter 25 of the Airport Commission. The chairman of the Airport Commission is here. I think it would only be appropriate if you could take over the conversation and kind of give an explanation of why this is needed at this time and what you're looking to gain from making these changes.
Absolutely, thank you, Lenny. So my name is Martijn Kamerbeek, I'm the chair of the Airport Commission. In front of you there are some changes to the charter for the Airport Commission, and let me just go through them one by one. I won't read the whole thing out loud. I think that you can all read. So the purpose has slightly changed. Really the update there is we refer to it now as the Albert Designated Regional Airport. And then under 25.3, the appointment of members slightly changed. It used to be there were between 5 and 7 people on the commission. We now are looking to have 3 of those. And we're looking to have 2 of those brought forward from the county because we're trying to have a partnership between the county and the city, which will greatly help us. And because they will be more involved, they will be able to nominate 2 of the commissioners. And let me see, 2 of those will still be passed by the Common Council, so that's not changed. So anybody serving on the Airport Commission is still approved by the Common Council.
So just to recap, all 5 will still be approved
Yes.
by the Common Council.
Okay. But they're nominated by.
The chair of the county board will nominate 2,
Okay.
and then it goes to the mayor's desk, and as we all know, the mayor then just sends it to the council and we approve
So
that.
how are we getting around, because on Human Rights Commission, I tried to have members that didn't reside in the city of Oneonta and they were ex-nayed.
So that's what we're doing, is we're making that change necessary for that residency clause, is that what you're getting at? So we're changing the composition of the commission to represent where we're headed. The county is not only just partnering with us in people, but they're partnering with us fiscally.
So the requirement is changing from, everybody was a resident of the city of Oneonta, and now we're looking to have resident of Otsego County. And part of that change is the new section that's called qualifications. So under qualifications, there are 2 different areas that are preferred. And what that revolves around is that being a member of an airport commission is very specific. You need to understand like engineering, you need to understand operations of the FAA, and it's helpful if you have an understanding of what's happening in that world, and you've been part of like airport operations before. So changing it to the county level will allow us to draw from a larger pool, and then at the same time putting the qualifications in will also make sure that the members who are serving have knowledge of how to run an airport. The idea behind that is that the commission is bringing forward ideas presents it to the council for approval. So in the end, there's no change to the approval process. It's just the way ideas are surfaced will be changing.
And then to go back to the qualifications, I relate this towards the historic committee where we have specific talent that we're looking for. And we have struggled to find anyone that has some knowledge within the city specifically. So by opening it to the county, as Martijn said, we'll have a better opportunity of getting people that meet those specific qualifications.
Can I ask an implementation question? So the airport commission has how many members currently serving?
We currently have 4.
Okay, so you need a 5th anyway.
Yes.
So how does it work with splitting the nomination between the city and the county? So like, will the counties, I'm assuming the county will nominate the next name, and then as people leave or term out, how does that work? Do you just make sure that there are 2 county nominees at all times and 3 city nominees?
Yes, that is the idea behind it.
Okay.
To have that mix between those 2. So to allow the county to have a stake in it, and like Len mentioned, we have the partnership between the county and the city, and that's why they can nominate a minority of the commissioners.
Okay.
And for now, the county's taking this serious enough that they're nominating board members. So they're not nominating civilians.
Okay.
They're nominating board members that have specific talent within the aviation field. One of them specifically has a great amount of knowledge about airports, so it'll be very helpful.
Another change is that the commission will create a list of qualified people who can be nominated to serve on the commission.
Oh.
And that's just to prevent what's happening now, that we don't have a fully staffed commission. It's just a list. It's still the rest of the procedure going through the mayor and going through the council members stays the same.
Yeah, just to help facilitate it, like an interest list, that makes sense.
Had you guys pushed your language at all about like it having somewhere in there that it can be a combination of the 2 or 3? Cause like hypothetically, let's say the county doesn't have anyone to put up, right? Are we gonna leave it an empty seat and it just not have representation? Or do we appoint someone from the city to have representation on the board?
We would ask the county to nominate 2 people, and that they will be able to do that.
Or like, let's say there's not enough people from the city and we want 3 county people.
Well, there can be people who live in Otsego County, but they wouldn't be nominated through Otsego County.
Through the board, are you good with that?
Yeah.
So we're trying to not get ourselves in that situation again by having a prepared list of some names of folks that are interested and keeping that current.
Absolutely, and that list could be longer than the number of open positions. That could just list people who have expressed interest in it, just so we have, say, a backlog of people who would like to serve. And then in section 25.5, it talks about the powers and duties. And what's outlined there is a structure where the airport commission has specific duties and responsibilities, A through I. And in general, they haven't changed from the prior charter. One of the changes is that they report to the city administrator. And then later on, it's mentioned that the airport commission may nominate an airport manager, so they can delegate those duties that they have to an airport manager, which is quite an intensive task. We have a couple of projects going on at this time, and it requires a lot of communication with third parties. So to be able to delegate that to someone makes a lot of sense, so there's consistency in communication.
So is this kind of what you were talking about with the potential, like, third-party organization that would be, rather than, because right now we have one individual, right, who's the airport manager, but we're talking about like a third party managing the airport.
And there's two parts of it. There would be an airport manager, that would be a third party, and then the other part we talked about is an FBO, that is a separate organization.
Oh, it's okay, it's a different thing.
Right, so FBO stands for Fixed Base Operations.
Okay,
So taking care of the folks that are landing and taking off at the airport, they take care of their needs, rental cars,
Yeah,
that type of stuff.
okay,
It's like, you can compare it to a gas station. You have the company operating like everything surrounding airport operations, but is not the owner of the airport. And then the airport manager handles the clerical side, talking to contractors, the FAA, and those organizations.
The engineer. One is doing regulations, the other one is doing operations, basically what it comes down to. But one, the airport manager is in charge of the regulations that go over all of the operations, so still, both are important, but one's very important.
okay,
And what was important through this verbiage is that there's a structure so that, I don't know if Martijn talked about it, but there'll be obviously electronic communication, but the airport commissioners will be CC'd on all of that. So they'll still be sharing all that responsibility. They won't be directly communicating with the airport engineer or engineering firm. The airport manager will be. And then all that information will be shared with Greg.
okay. And that's different from how it operates now?
Correct. Today we have an airport liaison, Len, where we would bring ideas to Len, who then we could present it to common council. Now this will go through Greg. So you have a structure where you have Greg, the airport commission, and then the airport manager.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's more like a department than
Right.
like a project.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
And then Greg works with the common council on all of the proposals.
That structure makes sense with me.
Yeah, we're also just trying to make sure that we have open lines of communication all the way through, and this is the best structure that we could come up with.
So it sounds like when we go with the FBO, it says that it will operate on a 60-month term, so we're locked in for 5 years with FBO if we do decide to go that route.
Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think pretty much every single contract that Dave Merzig writes has an exit clause within it.
Sorry, were you referring to 60 months?
Oh, it's from the presentation that we
Oh,
were given.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, this just has kind of the reasoning for why you're doing what you're doing, and so I just noticed that it says that, but like, again, the structure makes sense to me, but I just, 5 months, I think, with the, in my perspective, kind of financial instability isn't the right word, but just question mark, right, of whether or not it can become profitable. 5 years feels like a long time to commit to an organization without knowing the outcome of the situation. So it's just me being cautious as usual.
Yeah, I mean, tonight we're not talking about the specific contract or
course.
proposal, that will be worked out in that. I think the 60
Mhm.
months is, like I think Len was starting to say, typically when we enter lease agreements or contracts, we're looking at 5 years or less for the most part. It could be something less than that. Obviously, there's always termination clauses
Yeah.
that are included.
Yeah, it just seems like the kind of thing where this is the first step toward that, so having the consideration of all of it, how my brain works.
I think that's great. I do believe that the changes to the charter here can be completely independent of any other proposal, and I
Okay.
believe that all of these changes are good changes,
Sure.
no matter what happens in the future.
Right, I would agree. It's definitely two lanes, two paths as we're
Okay.
heading forward. Any other suggestions or
setting the airport commission and the airport up for success.
So the manager, the qualifications and the change in structure makes a lot of sense to me. So does involving the county, although that's taking a little bit longer to kind of like settle into the groups. But how do you select, does it say in here how you select the airport manager and who that person would be? Cause right now it's a hired person, right?
Yeah, so the airport commission may nominate an airport manager, or they may, to be approved by the common council, or they can delegate that to an airport manager that may exist outside of the airport commission and governing body.
So how does that work? Can you walk me through it?
I believe that it will be part of the regular proceedings of the airport commission, where somebody would be nominated and the airport commission would vote on that person. If they vote on that person, they would then bring it forward to the common council to be approved.
And it would be
Through
like-
Craig. Through Craig,
Right,
through the
Craig would
city.
put it.
Right.
Well, so then that brings me to is the airport manager a paid position?
No, not if it is selected from within.
If it's a commissioner, you mean?
Yes, if the commissioners nominate someone that they find who would like to do it, that's not a paid position. If they work with an airport manager through a contract, let me see how it words it here. An agreement, if the city enters an agreement with an airport manager, then that airport manager could be part of an organization, could be paid,
Okay.
but not through the city.
How would they be paid then?
Through an organization who would assume that, and that's very common, and that could be part of like the FBO.
Okay.
Again, that would be a contract that would have to come before the council for approval.
Right, so
Because
that
the
would be
commission
something like,
can't lock us into finances.
yeah, that would be something like the assessor, where we
Right.
contract with an assessor, we would
Right.
contract with an airport manager. If someone didn't wanna do it pro bono,
Right.
which seems like a lot of work for no money, but it's not my passion, so maybe it's just hard for me to envision that. Okay. The only thing that is not quite making sense now in my brain is about the nomination of the airport manager, cause if it's like a volunteer thing, we delegated, I mean, I guess it makes sense that it would be this way in the charter, that it would have to come through council.
Mhm.
We delegated this year all, like, hiring, I mean, would this person be a city employee then? But we're not paying them, so like, where do they fall? I don't know, it just doesn't,
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea is if the commission nominates one of its commissioners to take a bigger role than the rest of the commissioners on a regular basis, being the airport manager, that is who you would be nominating
Yeah,
to the
because-
commission?
Because it would make sense, right? I mean, a lot of the contact with regulatory organizations would go through the airport manager. It's good to have one single point of contact, so
Totally.
it would be appointing that single person point
Okay.
of contact.
so it'd be like an appointed thing rather than, unless it's a contract.
It's kind of like the airport commission now with the proposed code change
Uh-huh.
is the airport manager. The airport
Okay.
commission collectively is the airport manager. They work with me and they work potentially if we have an FBO, they work with that. Now, if they want to delegate that to an individual in the commission, to kind of take point, be the single point of contact, they can do that
Okay,
just amongst the motion at the commission level. Just kind of like, you know, they might elect their chair, they might elect or
Right.
nominate and pass a motion to designate Martine or someone else on the commission to be the airport manager.
Okay.
Or they might recommend the city contract with someone, and we have our regular procurement process,
okay,
and that would be something the council would approve as part of the contract.
okay. Okay, it makes sense to me.
So the mayor is not actually nominating 3 members, like, there's a list, and he gets to take whomever you guys voted on. And it's just
That's
like,
interesting.
So,
would really
I-
be nominating them unless the mayor said, no, I'm gonna nominate this other
Right.
person who I
But
think
getting
fits."
back to what Shannon just brought up, so if we tried to remove the mayor within that mix, then we're removing power or from an elected official, and we would open up a
Referendum.
bigger can, as we've talked about this on other issues, so there's no way of circumventing that position
Mhm.
to get to the council to make the final say.
And the mayor will still nominate. The airport commission will maintain the list of qualified candidates. The mayor will actually do the nomination, so he could pick anyone from the list or still find his own nominee if he chooses to do so. They're still nominated by the mayor.
Mhm. But he would also have to meet the qualifications in the updated code as far as whether it's a county nominee or a city nominee, so
Yes.
depending on the timing.
And I think the qualifications allow for that because it says to the extent possible.
Okay,
So it's a recommendation, not a hard requirement.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think we wanna pigeonhole ourselves into saying it has to be that. That is definitely the goal, is to get people that have some kind of experience, some kind of knowledge
Makes sense.
on there.
Add value in some objective way.
Correct, and there's a lot more work headed towards the airport commission. As in the next 2-3 years, there's gonna be substantially more work to do. So you want people that know how to do it and
Yeah,
have
that
that
would not be a
passion,
good pick.
right?
No.
That would have that passion.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
Well, if we don't have any more questions, do we wanna move this up to full council?
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Makes sense. Thank you for talking with us through it so that we can understand.
Absolutely, anytime, however I can help.
Yeah, thank you. I've gotten that impression. I appreciate that because the airport is something that is, happening sort of outside of our normal purview. So having someone who is willing to talk to us about what's going on, help us understand is really helpful.
Yeah, anytime, my email is on the website.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if we wanna really get into D. Do we just wanna, as a group, kinda go through topic, B?
Want to get into D?
Do you wanna get into D? I'm not really
I brought
ready to
my
get into D.
stuff.
I thought we
Alright.
were gonna do B and C. I didn't know that we were not doing B and C today, so.
That's fair. Yeah, we can go, whatever, you're the chair.
Nice. Shannon,
Whatever
do
you
you,
want to do.
do you have a couple minutes?
Yeah.
Wait, the meeting started at 5:30, right?
Yeah.
Right, but she usually has
Oh, okay.
commitment.
Get me out like I was late.
No, you were good.
Okay.
Did-
Panicking.
Do we have a couple minutes or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You have to leave at 6?
No. Cause then when we talked, you were saying like 6:30, right? Like 6:45. You would be done?
Okay.
Sure.
I know that you have a commitment.
Yeah. Thank you, Len.
So for me, this document, the parts that I wanted to hone in on was that we were gonna have a schedule that was progressively
Right.
moving upwards towards the administrative fees. That we also had 911 address listed in there, and I think legally we can have that in there, right? I mean, there's no reason why we can't legally say 911.
No,
That's not a,
it's not subjective.
Right.
okay.
It's a fixed address.
Carrie quickly captured that if you look at 280-4 subsection D, which is on the third page. It's the third paragraph down. How was your wordsmithing? You had something there.
So in the event that multiple structures share the same parcel, each structure shall be tracked separately by 911 address for violations, but unpaid fees shall be collected as a single lien against the parcel. That way, it reflects the fact that there are multiple buildings on a singular parcel and limits the enforcement in each particular building.
Okay.
Right, because, I mean, that's a great point, is that we're not sending it to that physical address because the organization's headquarters are not there.
Are not there.
So that's a good catch. Can you, pass that, oh, sorry. If you guys are good with that wording, then we could pass that on to Steve for final entry into his draft form. And then, 280-5, under the appeals, we don't know what's the starting point of the 10 calendar days.
Okay.
Carrie, typically the invoice would go out, is it certified first, or is it just normal email, or mail, and then they step it up to certified?
So the invoices themselves go out by regular mail. The notice of violations are what would be certified.
And the problem with United States Postal Service is that it could take more than 5 days to go from City Hall to my
It
address.
would, I mean, the 10 calendar days is standard and it's in line with the other code enforcement related violations that they send out.
Right.
There's only a few that have a longer timeline, but the 10 calendar days, it's typically from date of invoice, he signs them and they're sent out same day.
Okay, I'm a little loopy. Can we jump back to the enforcement portion of this?
Where's that? Oh,
Well,
283.
just 280
Dash
dash 2, I guess it's under definitions, under nuisance fire alarm. Occurrences of unnecessary alarms from the same structure as well as 2 or more within a 48-hour period. So that's, okay, so I'm just trying to figure out, my building is doing this, right? It happens the first time, that's not a nuisance. It happens twice in 48 hours, that is a nuisance, that triggers the fee. That's my first offense. Then that puts me on the hook for 6 months. If it happens again, I'm toward the second offense, right?
No, where'd you get the 6 months?
Cause it says each repeat violation under subsection D, administrative fees, says each repeat violation extends the liability period by 6 months from the date of the most recent violation. So, if it happens 4 times within a calendar year, that would still be my first offense. And then that would push it out for 6 months, and then if it happened again, it would be my second offense, right? Does that sound the way? Okay, technically, yeah. Okay. My brain is really slow today, so.
No,
That makes
technically,
sense? Okay. Seems like a lot to keep track of, honestly. Is the program coded in such a way that it will just like, is there a program? Is it in this somewhere that a computer can do that thinking?
I don't
Okay.
know what the city is capable of.
That hurts my head. He put it here, so I feel like there's gotta be,
Looking for them to track it.
yeah, I would assume he's not creating a huge administrative burden for his own department, but it seems like hard to keep an eye on.
So go back, as you guys are thinking about what Katie just said, go back under, D, you were just talking about the period by 6 months. If you do the next sentence, if no further nuisance alarm occurs within 6 months after the last notice, the property owner returns to compliance status. Should we add that their offense fee or administrative fee is paid in full?
Oh, that's a good point.
Because you could just keep going back to being compliant, but your fee is still hanging out there.
Well,
Am I misreading that?
no, but I'm wondering because of the final paragraph where it talks about it being levied on the property.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know what you're saying, like if it gets re-levied, are you still going back to compliance status? I don't know. And the first offense,
I think we asked him something similar, and he said, "Yeah, I would like go back to like the beginning, because regardless, we're gonna get paid for this. They'll get attached to their taxes."
Get through. So the county, Greg, the county makes us whole on administrative fees?
Yes, yep, so any fine that this is like, so, for instance, if you don't shovel your sidewalk and you get charged $120 to have them shovel your sidewalk,
Mm-hmm,
and you don't pay that,
mm-hmm,
right, and you totally miss it,
Mhm.
right, and then what happens is, the city says, oh, you didn't shovel your sidewalk or pay the fee, we're gonna attach this to your taxes, and then it's on a special place under taxes that says like miscellaneous other, it might say code,
okay,
and then, so, if then they still do not get paid after they're put on your tax bill,
right.
it'll go to the county will make us whole, and the county will collect.
Okay.
Same with water bills.
Water bill, all the bills, yes,
So no matter what, we're gonna get our money, and so
yep.
are we good with becoming compliant?
I
I-
mean,
It, also, it's not just the fee, but it's also, are they actually, they took care of whatever the problem was?
Like, are they actually really compliant?
compliant,
Are they really compliant? Because they could just take the detector out, but that doesn't mean out of service. They could take the detector out of service and override it at the enunciator panel or panel at the wall. But they're not really compliant because there's no detector there. You can bypass it. You can put it in bypass mode.
Hmm. That sounds like that, but I think it's a good point, cause we want people to be
Compliant.
compliant,
Literally,
safe.
right, that's what we're trying to do is make
Yeah.
sure that they're compliant.
but if they bypass it, then all of the onus is on them for bypassing it. So if there's a fire or an issue, you know what I mean, like,
Right.
they're bypassing, it's out of our hands at that point.
Okay, I was also wondering that.
So they wouldn't pass their fire inspection, their alarm inspection if they did that. So
Right.
that would be their penalty there.
But can I ask a question, because some of them do self-inspections, right? Like when we get an SUP from a fraternity, they do their own inspection, so
Mhm.
they could just say
Well, that's just the
whatever,
fire
pretty much.
alarm.
Different requirements for different types of fire
Yeah.
systems.
Okay.
That's just the fire alarm form, so any rental property in Oneonta that's, I think it's under 2 family.
That's where like smoke detectors.
Yeah, or the
like,
smoke
you
detectors.
know, well, a fire alarm, sprinkler system, all that.
Is totally different.
Oh, okay,
That would require a third party.
It's just
Oh,
the
okay.
smoke detector.
okay.
All right. Well, I guess we have a little bit of homework to do. Carrie, you'll communicate with Steve that we've added some thoughts, and then is that something we can have maybe a week before our next meeting?
So the changes to 280(4) and 280(5), and then do you want clarification on the nuisance fire alarm definition when it comes to the 48-hour, 7-day calendar year kind of deal?
Yeah. And then will they actually return it back to compliant status for them? I guess if we have any other questions, why don't we just do a group email and send them to Carrie?